Hello everyone, welcome to the HSPF training by DSI. This is Anurag. Today we are going to cover a topic: how do I edit a UCI file quickly in a text editor? So in some of the previous videos I talked about that UCI file can be edited in a text editor, and some of the examples that I gave were VS Code, Notepad++, Ultra Edit, TextPad. All of these are very powerful text editors and are very useful to edit the UCI file, and rather than editing some of the things in WinHSPF, it's easier to edit it in the text file itself. However, it takes some getting used to the text editing features to be able to use these features powerfully. So what I will do is I will go through a text UCI file, show you how I try to edit it and how I use the power of Excel and the text editor to change the parameters. So this is one of the UCI file that we generated earlier. It doesn't matter, you can get it from anywhere. So if you remember, this is the gen info block, every Perland operation and the name of that. So what we'll do is one column editing is that you have to get used to it. This is VS Code, so in here I use Control Alt Shift, and then the selections are by column. Okay, so I copy this, Control C, and open Excel. Okay, so I paste it here, and I also say text import wizard, fixed width, and this is divided into two columns. That's it. Let me also say Perland operation detail. One other thing that I will do is I will move this, Control X, and I'm moving the operation to the right side, and I'll explain that later. You'll see why it is that. Okay, so now I have all the operation details here and the operation numbers. So let's look at this table, pivot PALM2 forest LZSN. So let's do this thing. Let's copy all these parameters and we'll do the Control Shift Alt, Control C, and I put it here. And again I'll use text import wizard to fix width, and that's it. Okay, so looks like I copied more. Okay, so 104, 105 were different, so that's all right. And because just in case if you did not notice, 104 and 105, these are the two operations that have the same values, so they should have been two rows, one for 104, 104, 105, and we don't have it here, but that's all right, we'll do it later on. I'll also get the name of these parameters, and because we are going to be using new parameter values, so text import wizard space finish, that's it. Okay, so now we have the operation details, operation number, parameter names. Now what we go and data filter. So forest, what I will do is make forest as this thing, make sure all of them are 1, and then uncheck forest and make sure all of them are 0. So what I will now, one of the things, if you remember from the earlier video, I talked about that uh, you have to get the slope and length parameters separately from the GIS analysis. Basins does not give you accurate values for slope and length. So you have to kind of do this operation anyway. So what I will do is I will pause this video. I'll update the value for LSIR and SLSIR based on a different operation that I have done, and then we'll continue. Okay, so I copied length and slope values from a different operations, and we'll not go into the details of that. Okay, then I go ahead and as I said earlier, that the initial parameters given by WinHSPF are not always good or accurate, so we can do some changes by itself. So I'll just show an example of couple, and then we'll pause and we'll come back to it. So for example, forest, I'll make all of that as 7.5 LGSN. And this is just a starting value. It does not take care of any, does not think about any soils information here. Let me also get the infiltration about 0.16. Slope is k-vary, we'll start with 0, and AGWRC 0.99 is fine for the start off. Okay, then I go ahead and change it to water and wetland. So let's all make this 8. And I don't know what I gave it to forest. Let me just see. Forest was 0.16. So wetland 0.18 for starting. It's too much, but we can always change it later. 0.995 would be a good starting value. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm changing the values of the parameters based on the land use, and I can use the filter functionality here to quickly fill those values. So I'm going to pause this video and fill the LGSN and fill k-vary and HWRC for rest of the land uses, and we'll come back on how to put these values in the UCI file. Okay, so I got all the parameters filled out. Now before I copy it to the UCI file, I need to make sure that they all are same width. So this is just one character, and I'll make it 2 decimal places is fine. Infilt 2 decimal places. LSIR it does not need decimal places, but you know, you can see that some are like 50, some is 3 letters, some is 2. So you want to make sure all of them are same width. So I'll take the number format and change it to 000. That means all of them are 3 digits. Slope, I make it to 4, and this one I can make it to 3. You can make all of them the same decimal. Actually, that would be easier. Okay, so all right. So except LSIR, all of them are 3 decimal digits. Now we have operation and the parameters here. Copy. Go to the UCI file and enter and paste it. Now the issue is that it has tabs and it's not aligned, but UCI files does not need tabs and it wants it to be aligned. So we'll use the column editing feature. One thing would be very quickly is Control Shift space. So if you see this number one, I don't know if you can see this number one aligns to the X up there. So that's how we know that this is aligned. Then I go back here, delete the tab, space, and I press space, so that now the 0 is aligned to that forest, and I then delete the tab. So 0, the last 0 is aligned to the parenthesis, delete tab. Alright, so this is all aligns, T aligns with 0, this parenthesis aligns with this 0, and this parenthesis aligns with this 0, and so that means all the values are aligned properly. See, we had to put 0, 5, 0. If it was not 0, it would be 50, it would not be aligned properly, and all of this alignment would mess up. So anyway, then we go ahead and delete this. Okay, now let's say you do a simulation and you come up with some results and you realize, okay, that your infiltration is too much. So what to do? Let's say infiltration, if we want to multiply it, divided by the number. So infilt equals into 0.75. So we reduce infilt. This is the value. Let's copy it here, and we can always increase the space. Okay, so now we have infilt value. Come here, Control Alt Shift, select this, Control V, we have new values. Let's say you decide, okay, your water and wetland are the one that are having problem, but others are fine. So water and wetland, say, okay, this should be higher. So let's say this should be 0.14. Okay, and then let's select all of them. Control Shift down arrow, Control C, Control Alt Shift, that's it. So then what I do is, another thing that I do is I like just save it as pivot palm 2. I can't spell. So what I do is that I save this for future use, future references when I'm changing this. And let me just say Control Shift down arrow, copy, Control V, no, sorry, Control Alt V, values, okay, and delete this column. That's it, and just save it. So then the same Excel file, you can have a sheet for pivot palm 2, pivot palm 3, and so forth. Okay, so now there are some other things that you can do. So this is important when you want to ungroup a lot of operations. So for example, if you see 104 and 105 are grouped. What are 4 and 5? Forest and upland shrubland. Doesn't make sense to group them, but anyway. Okay, so now this, when HSPF does sometimes, that I find it very annoying. See, the same heading is repeated. We don't need it to be repeated. For HSPF, it doesn't matter because it's going to ignore these 3 stars. But if you just don't like it, Control C, Control H, copy, replace by nothing, delete all of that, and then just paste what we copied. Okay, and that's it. So now we have that cleaned up. So generally I do these kind of operations after I am done with most of the things that I need to use WinHSPF for. For example, setting up the initial parameterization, um, setting up the calibration location. So once all of those things are done, then I go and do these kind of manual edits as and when required. Because if I start saving it with WinHSPF, it may mess up the formatting once in some more cases. So yeah, this is just an example of how you can use the power of text editing, and you can use that for editing the UCI files. So if you have some questions, feel free to message me, and that's it. Thank you so much for your time.